Recently, Liberal leadership frontrunner Mark Carney received an endorsement from this man, Trudeau's Environment Minister, Steven Guilbeaut. Now, to Liberal supporters, this was considered to be a positive development for Carney. But is it really a good thing, and what does it tell us about Mark Carney's agenda? An editorial in the Toronto Sun by Catherine Swift, president of the Coalition of Concerned Manufacturers and Businesses of Canada, illustrates how disastrous Guilbeaut has been for Canada and why any rational person should be ashamed to have his endorsement. As Swift put it, Trudeau putting Guilbeaut in the post of Minister of the Environment appeared to be a giant middle finger to Alberta. While no one denies that climate policy is important, Guilbeaut's blind, single-issue obsession led him to trip over some inconvenient facts. Facts like the rule of law. As Swift notes, his ban on plastics and attempt to classify plastic as toxic were policies rebuked by the federal court in late 2023. The court found his approach to be unscientific and unconstitutional, as it intruded on provincial jurisdiction. As for the Impact Assessment Act, which would pile all kinds of new delays and red tape onto major resource projects, the Supreme Court deemed the legislation to be unconstitutional in October 2023. Rebuked once again by the courts, Guilbeaut said he would amend the act in response, which has not happened as yet. Given how obsessive Guilbeaut is about the environment, it's shocking that he's proven so incompetent at actually protecting it. As Swift notes, more recently, we've seen how Guilbeaut and his cabinet post predecessor, Catherine McKenna, ignored multiple warnings from their own staff for years about the tinderbox that was developing in the Jasper area. During the recent horrendous wildfires, federal officials reportedly prevented local firefighting personnel from helping fight the fires on federally regulated Jasper territory. Given the devastation of the Jasper wildfires, it is shocking that there have been no consequences for either Guilbeaut or senior bureaucrats in his department. Then again, it was only Alberta after all. Swift lists numerous other examples of Guilbeaut's bungling, including his electric vehicle mandate to force all new cars sold after 2035 to be EVs. The trouble is that auto manufacturers have actually been cutting back on EV production as consumer demand for the vehicles has been tapering off. But to an ideologue like Guilbeaut, things like the free market and consumer choice are just pesky inconveniences. Perhaps Guilbeaut's most harmful policies, and the ones that affect our current trade war with the US, are his plans for an emissions cap for the oil and gas industry and a revamp of the Impact Assessment Act, otherwise known as the No More Pipelines Bill. The Fraser Institute estimated an emissions cap will substantially reduce Canada's GDP, eliminate as many as 150,000 well-paying jobs, and cut at least $150 billion from government revenues. What's worse, by blocking east-west pipelines, these measures make us more dependent on the US at a time when Canada desperately needs to diversify our export markets. And what about Mark Carney? Well, up until this point, he's agreed with everything that Guilbeaut has been saying and doing. That's why Guilbeaut endorsed him. For years, Carney has been saying that carbon taxes need to be higher, not lower.
Now, so far, carbon prices have been applied sparingly. They've been set far too low, in the single digits on average globally, well short of the estimated $80 to $100 a ton needed by the end of this decade to keep us on track to net zero.
When the federal government vetoed the Northern Gateway pipeline, Carney testified, "Given both the environmental and commercial reasons, I support the decision." Now, on the eve of an election, Carney is talking about getting rid of the carbon tax and replacing it with what he calls a shadow carbon tax. He even convinced Guilbeaut to play along with the idea. Why are they singing this song now? Because they don't want to face the music. They don't want to be held accountable for the disastrous policy that harms Canadians. They want to trick you with a shell game to make you think they're getting rid of the carbon tax when they're really not. We need to find a better path forward. We need common sense policies that will unite our country, maximize our potential, and enhance our economic independence. We need a conservative government led by Pierre Poilievre to bring it home.